Hey Cornerstone, I'm Tim Dunham and this is my wife Jill, and today we're continuing our series on the fruit of the Spirit. Today it's gentleness, and this week as I was preparing, I saw several videos that were really interesting to me that had to do with usually a large construction equipment doing some delicate task. For instance, I saw one the other day that had an excavator with a chef's knife taped to its bucket, and it was cutting a cucumber that was sitting on top of a balloon without popping the balloon. Pretty impressive, it was pretty cool. Another one I saw had an excavator with a claw on the end, and it was stacking bottles on top of each other. And on top of the top bottle, it was putting a golf ball. So pretty cool stuff to see something so big and so powerful performing a delicate task. And I think that's kind of an interesting picture of gentleness. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to first start by defining what gentleness is. And then we're going to look at ways in which Jesus exhibited gentleness. And finally, we're going to see if we can come up with some applications that can help us exhibit gentleness in our own lives. So first, the definition.
So a concise definition of gentleness is power under control. And it is not weakness, like often maybe we would think of. And a biblical definition is to submit one's strength in a posture of humility before God and before others. One word in the New Testament that's used interchangeably with gentleness is meekness. They have the same Greek word, but they kind of mean the same thing. So practically, this kind of implies that we are moderate in our behavior, we're reasonable, we're just, and we are fair, and that we use a thought process that comes up with measured actions instead of just reactions. So Philippians 4:5 says it's actually a mark of a believer that they let your gentleness be known to all. And 1 Timothy says that we are supposed to pursue gentleness.
So how do we see Jesus exhibiting power under control? How do we see him being reasonable? How do we see him giving a measured response? Well, the first story I'd like us to consider is John chapter 21, where Jesus is reinstating Peter as a disciple, so to speak. You all probably are aware of the story where Peter denies Christ 3 times on the night that Jesus was tried. And you can imagine how much shame Peter must have felt that moment when his eyes met Jesus's eyes at the moment when the rooster crowed, and knowing that he had done the very thing he said he would never do. Sometime later, Jesus met him by the Sea of Galilee, and they had breakfast together. And Jesus asked him 3 times, "Do you love me?" Once for each time that Peter had denied him. And Peter's response, of course, was, "Yes, you know that I love you." But it was a way that Jesus was gentle with Peter. Jesus could have been really hard on him, probably had every right to be hard on him. Why did you betray me in the moment when I most needed you? But he was gentle with him and said, "Hey, do you love me?" And Peter responded, "Yes." So Jesus showed a real measure of gentleness. He does the same for us in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30, and I'm going to read those to you. "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Jesus promises us that he's not going to give us something that's beyond what we can handle. He's not going to give us something that's unreasonable. He's not going to give us something that's harsh. He's not going to blow us away with some request that's too big for us to handle. So we see Jesus exhibiting gentleness in a couple different ways in those 2 stories, but let's talk about how we can show gentleness in our own lives.
So the Lord always provides opportunities for us to display gentleness, but right now in our new situation of working at home and being with our families all day, he's possibly providing new opportunities. So, for example, maybe your kids are now home doing school online, maybe fighting with each other and fighting with you, and your internet's going in and out, and they're eating all your food. Our 3 big kids are going through an alarming amount of food and milk. So that's all to say, we might be a little more anxious right now. Our emotions might be heightened. and we may be more prone to react in ways that maybe we wouldn't normally. So as a parent, in this example, how are we going to act in a reasonable way to keep our power under control? How can we take a step back and think through our thoughts and reactions? And it might be drastic. You might need to go to the car or to your bathroom and pull it together before you talk to your kids. And the moment may be just as much about you and how the Lord wants to cultivate gentleness in you as it is how you want to cultivate something in your children. Proverbs 15:4 says, "A gentle tongue is a tree of life." And 2 Timothy 2:25 says we are to correct our opponents, so you can insert irritating people there, with gentleness, with the goal of leading them to a knowledge of repentance.
So gentleness is power under control. And one of the ways I think that we can wield a great amount of power is with our words and how we talk to others. So how are we keeping that under control? How do we keep the way we speak, the words that we use, how do we keep that under control so as not to cause more damage than we should? And, we think about gentleness, and I think of the picture of a father who's being handed his son, and the mom would say, "Hey, be gentle, be gentle." And it's because without special care, without keeping that power under control, the father could easily harm their child. And it's not unlike the story of the excavator, where an excavator can do great amounts of damage if not properly managed, or if under the right controls and with the right person behind the wheel, it can do something very delicate, such as cutting a cucumber that's sitting on a balloon. So we hope this is helpful for you guys. We're excited to talk about the fruit of the Spirit with you. We hope that it can be a little bit challenging for you as you go through your week. We miss you. We can't wait to see you guys again, and have a great weekend.